Okay, folks, so I wanted to show you my dry age beef gadget that I put together here. Essentially everything is off the shelf. It consists of a refrigerator and a bunch of parts that I'm going to go over with you now. I got interested in dry age beef just by seeing a couple of things online. Did a little bit of investigating, read quite a few blogs and so on, and so I've really taken a lot of information from various areas and put them together, and I hope you enjoy this video. Alright, so to start off here, we have some gadgets up here, and the first one on the far right is a digital timer that allows you to turn something on and off at various times during the day. To the left of that we have a temperature controlled switch, and to the left of that we have a humidity controlled switch, and then I'll show you here in the back there's a tiny little rotary controller, and I'll explain what all these items are for. Got some distilled water here, and that's for a humidifier that's inside. Opening the fridge up, let's take a look at what we have inside. Let me step back here and give you a wide angle view so you can see everything in whole, and then I'll explain everything piece by piece. So in the upper right hand corner here we have a UV light that is used for sterilization purposes. So the way that this works, my understanding is that UV light is destructive to the DNA of well, all living organisms really, but it's particularly effective against viruses and bacteria because they're so small. The DNA is completely destroyed, and it renders them so they cannot reproduce. So this is a good idea, and it's an idea that's borrowed from commercial dry aging facilities. They do this type of thing. I didn't find this in any of the videos that I looked at, but I thought it would be a good addition. This is basically a tiny room UV sterilizer, and the way that it works is there's a tiny fan in the top of this that draws air from the bottom. That aluminum light reflector that you see is normally a cylinder, and as you can see I've kind of splayed it open to suit my purposes, but the air is drawn from the top through the bottom and it goes up through the cylinder, and normally the UV light is constantly on when this is plugged in, and it just neutralizes viruses and bacteria in the air. So this is actually controlled by my digital timer that I showed you earlier, the white box there, and I have this going on and turning off at several times during the hours when people are sleeping. And the reason I did that is UV light is also damaging to, like I said, all organisms, but particularly, as I understand, our eyes are sensitive to this. So I wanted to make sure that the light wasn't going off when people were potentially opening the fridge. Next item I'll show you in here is a tiny fan that's controlled by the black rotary switch on the back. I currently have it set to the lowest speed, which I think is going to be sufficient. Really, you just want the air to continue to circulate inside the fridge for even cooling and humidity throughout the entire refrigerator. And that reminds me, I'll just go ahead and point this out right now. When I go through and edit this video, I'll make sure that in the annotations and also in the description I will include links to all of these items. The next item we have here, this blue and white thing, this little orb, is actually a tiny humidifier. So this thing is awesome. I was really excited when I found this because it fits perfectly in the refrigerator. It has a tiny reservoir there but it only kicks on a few times a day, so I anticipate that I'll only have to refill this maybe 2 or 3 times during the course of when I'm aging the beef. The next thing we have here is a trusty rusty box of Arm & Hammer baking soda. This is just to make sure if there's any funky smells in the fridge for any reason that they won't be imparted onto the flavor of my beef. Here we go. Going down to this middle rack here, we actually have the Pyrex casserole dish and roasting rack. I'm also going to fill that with some Himalayan sea salt, which I have an entire block of down here. Now the idea behind Himalayan sea salt is it's supposed to help draw moisture out of the beef. In addition, my understanding is that over time the Himalayan sea salt will absorb some flavors, and those flavors are going to be imparted onto additional meats that you dry age in your fridge. What we have coming down here is 3 wires, and these go to the humidity controller and the temperature controller. There's one for the temperature controller. It's basically a temperature probe, and the other 2 go to the humidity controller. As it turns out, I guess the humidity sensor is sensitive to temperature changes, and so there's also a temperature sensor on the humidity controller to make sure that the humidity controller accounts for changes in temperature when calculating the actual humidity. The way I routed these wires is pretty cool. So I drilled a hole in the top of the refrigerator, and I actually removed this temperature controller and light assembly so that I could nicely route the wires. I mean, it looks, you know, it looks pretty factory done there. I may or may not try to find a way to secure these probes a little bit better so that they're, you know, not dangling and touching my meat. I might just lay it on this top shelf. I'm not really quite sure yet. But I did want to point out a couple of things about this fridge too. So I really like this refrigerator. It's a 4.4 cubic foot fridge, and it doesn't have a freezer. The cool thing about it, and I guess I'll also mention some words of caution here. So the cool thing about it is this top is actually removable. There's 2 screws in the back. Once you remove the screws, this lifts up, it angles up, and then you can pull it off like so. And it exposes the metal shell. This area right here is the top of the fridge, and you can simply drill down. And the reason I said word of caution is I learned the hard way, because I had another fridge here. I learned the hard way that you know, my thinking was that the cooling fins are in the back, which is true, but what I didn't realize is a lot of these refrigerators on the side is where they irradiate the heat from the condenser. And I mean, that's the case here. So the sides of this fridge are actually pretty hot. I would say they're probably, I don't know, 100 degrees or so. And so there's some, I guess, some piping in the sides of these fridges. Well, there's my other fridge over there. Can't really see it because it's backlit, but suffice it to say, I drilled into the side of that thing trying to route my wires, and I found that I hit a cooling coil. So yeah, don't do that. I think the safest bet on these fridges is to drill in through the top. I made a kegerator a while back, and I did the same thing, and I didn't have any problems drilling into the top, so I should have just done that from the get-go. But I just thought it would have looked a little bit better on that other fridge if I would have done it the other way. Anyhow, I'll mention one other thing here. So I came up with another design element, and this is just kind of my own little idea. What I've done is I've taken liquids as you can see, and I've just crammed them into every single nook and cranny that I possibly can here in the door. I've left a couple of shelves empty because I'm afraid that those would touch the meat. But my thinking here is that I'm going to be checking on the beef from time to time to see how it's doing. And I'm hoping that these liquids, being at a temperature of near freezing, will buffer any changes in temperature that result in me opening the door. And of course, I can also, use it to keep my muscle milk and my coconut water cold. And if things are looking particularly good when I check on my meat, I can celebrate with one of these lovely brews. Well, so that's it for now. I'm gonna go inside and get my beef ready. See you guys in a bit.